What's going on, everyone? This is going to be our fully loaded channel module, where we're going to assemble a fully loaded channel, or what would be considered also a factory configured fixture. And so we're going to talk about the material list first for those employees that are following along but also ordered the samples ahead of time so that they could do the hands-on themselves while following this video. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a pre-cut section of blaze tape light. We'll have this already pre-cut for you. We'll have a channel and lens. This is our Canal channel, one of our older channels that we use for things like this, hands-on. Okay, you're going to have the Canal accessory pack. So I'll show you what's in this really quick so that you make sure that you have everything. We always go and give them extras in case that, imagine, this would usually come with an 8-foot section. Okay, let me move this around here. So this would usually come with like an 8-foot section. If you wanted to cut that channel into two 4-foot sections, you would have then 2 clips for one side, 2 clips for the other section. Then you would have a wire side end cap and a non-wire side end cap for one section, and then a non-wire end cap and wire end cap, non-wire end cap for the other section. Okay, so that will be your accessory pack. You will also have a box which has silicone in it that we'll be using to silicone the terminal block and the end caps. You will have a tape to wire terminal block, as you can see here. Okay, and so I'm gonna grab it like this so you can see it. Okay, notice how one side is slanted and one side is not. I'll hold it like this, get the channel out of the way so you can see it easily. Okay, notice how one side, this side is not slanted, this side is slanted. Slanted side is always tape. If you did the Streamlight and terminal block module before, you would have had also a second connector. This is tape to wire. The other one would have been tape to tape. And that would have had both sides are slanted. So this is all you need though for this module, tape to wire. Okay, and you're also going to need your female DC connector. Okay, female DC connector. I'm going to pull it out of the bag so you can see it. So we are using DC connectors just to make it easy so you can play around with this afterwards, light it up. Usually you wouldn't use this in the field too often. It will have lead wire on the other side, red for positive, black for negative. You can see them here. You can split them apart, okay? And then you're going to have a little plug-in driver, okay? A little plug-in driver here. You can see that has a male DC connector so that you can then plug it into the female DC connector so that you can then use this later on as a little sample to play around in your house, okay? So that is the whole material list, as well as tools. So tools, you're going to have scissors, just in case if you need to trim down one of the solder points, cut points, and then also a diode LED screwdriver. So it will look like this. You can keep this after the fact. It's magnetic. So that if you drop one of the screws or unscrew it all the way and it falls down, you can pick it up and it's magnetic. It's also a 0 size screwdriver because most of the screws that we use in our products are 0 screws. It's also reversible. So Phillips head, flat head, you can reverse it whatever way you want and snap it back in. Okay, so that will be your entire material list. Let's get started here and let's cut some tape light and build out a fully loaded channel. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start by connecting the tape light into our tape to wire terminal block using our screwdriver. So I'm going to teach you a few nuances here, okay? So one, we always want to make sure that we take off a little bit of the adhesive off of the tape light. And then before you actually connect it into the terminal block. There's 2 reasons for this. One, when you take a little bit of the adhesive off, now it's sticky at the very end. So when you pop it into the terminal block, it actually sits in there and keeps a good connection and it doesn't move around very easily. The other reason why is, imagine if this was a larger job and you were doing maybe 8-foot section and you don't rip off the adhesive here, you put it into the connector. Now what happens is you have to take the adhesive off on the far side. But imagine if that was 8 feet. That's a lot of tape light that when you rip it all the way off, you have a bunch of exposed adhesive. And as you might have learned in the past, so I'll teach you here, is that we do not want any dust or particles or grease getting onto the adhesive. We want to keep it as clean as possible to make sure it has the best adhesion and you can stick it down and it will last for 15, 20 years. So this way, when you rip it off, and I'll show you here how we're going to do this. Let me make sure that I'm on the right side here, okay? I'm going to take a little bit of the adhesive off, okay? And what I'm going to do is not rip it off, but just keep it right here. And the reason why is that when you do go to the install, okay, and you're ready to actually install the tape, you could then press the tape down as you pull the adhesive off and keep pressing it down. This way it's much easier to do, but also you're not having this all touching and getting dust on the adhesive, okay? So I'm going to push it back down a little bit, just have enough that it's exposed here, bend it down a little bit. All right, now to our terminal blocks. Our terminal blocks are a patented system of ours. Connectors in tape light and low voltage have been the wild, wild west. They started out as clamshells, where if you pressed it down, it was pressurized, but then it would come undone and you get a loose connection. Then there was these snap down ones. Those would burn up really easily. Then the screw down connectors came out. The problem was with screw down is contractors would tighten it down and over tighten, and the screw would come down and pierce the tape light or pierce the wire and damage it. So what we did is we have these metal sleds that are on the bottom side of the terminal block, so that when you slip in the tape light, the sled will go above the tape light. So it's a metal sled. So this way, when the screw comes down, it can't pierce the tape light, but also it presses down the sled and it makes that contact. This is the unique part about our terminal block. So what you're gonna do, I'll show you what the sleds look like. You can see them on the tape side much better. Let me show it this way here. You can see those little tiny metal sleds on the bottom on the right side here. You can also see them on the left side. So those are what they look like. So what I like to do with installation with tape light and terminal blocks is actually install it upside down. Okay, so I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to show you how you get it wrong. Okay, this is what you don't want to do. So I go here. Actually, sorry, bear with me. I need to just loosen these up just a little bit. Okay, just a little bit, so that we have some room in there. And then I'm going to bend this back, the adhesive, and I'm going to show you how you do it wrong here first, okay? So right here, notice how you can see the metal sled still underneath, okay? That means the metal sleds are under the tape light and not on top, so that it's not blocking the screw from piercing it. So this is how it looks when you do it right. So I'll pull it back out here, okay? Pop it in. And notice now how you don't see the sleds underneath the terminal block. Okay, that's how you want it to look. Also notice that because of the adhesive being exposed, now I can move it around and it doesn't slip off very easily. It helps keeping it in there when you're actually screwing it down and not moving it all around, okay? So what we're gonna do is the technique is we're gonna flip it back over like this, okay? And then what I like to say is that it's your thumb and pointer finger like this, so you hold it together, okay? You're gonna take your Phillips head side screwdriver and you're going to tighten down, and it's like tires when you're changing tires. You don't screw down one screw all the way, you alternate, okay? This way, if I screw down one side all the way, the tape light can actually get crooked, okay? So we'll alternate screws. And the good thing is about these terminal blocks that are unique is that you can really crank down on the screws to make an extremely tight connection. This is unique in the industry. Usually a solder is the best connection out there, and connectors, if you screw it down, you can still easily slip out the tape light and the wire. As you notice here, you can make a really, really good connection. So boom, we have our tape into the connector, and now we're gonna bring in our female DC lead wire. Now, notice on tape light, there are cut points. So blaze, it's every 2 inches. You can see them here. The metal cut point there, then the metal cut point here, that's 2 inches, okay? Now, there's two things about cut points, right? So they'll be every 2 inches. You'll notice that there's a line through the cut point. That's where we're going to cut it in half. So we're not gonna cut over here. We're not gonna cut over here, right down the middle. Also, you will notice that on our tape light, our cut points, there's always going to be a positive side and a negative side right next to the cut point. So for me, I like to keep the positive side on either the far side from me or what I would consider the top side. Okay, so that's obviously backwards from your view. Okay, and then with lead wire, static white, low voltage lead wire, okay, the red is always going to be positive, the black is always going to be negative. So since my positive is on this side, my negative is on this side, I will be bringing in the wire where the red positive is on the positive side, black is on the negative side, okay? So what I'm going to do before I bring my lead wire in is just make sure these screws are pretty loose so I can pop them in there easily, okay? So, and we're going to now pop the wires in here. So I like to do this technique where I kind of hold them closer up to the ends so that you can do both of them at the same time. You're not going to hear a snap, but you're going to definitely feel that it's in there snug, okay? So boom, I got both of them in there, okay? So then I'll do the same idea where I'll kind of hold down, or sometimes I like to put my hand down here, but hold it like this, okay? And then you're going to screw down, and you're still gonna alternate, it's just good practice, okay? Now, keep screwing down. Really just make sure that it's a good solid connection and that those screws are pretty tight. So now you can see here, right, it's in there, it's not going anywhere, the tape light's not going anywhere. All right, so now we want to test it out, obviously, and make sure that it lights up before we go and we put it into the channel. That would be extra work. If it doesn't light up, you would have to then undo the tape light, you would ruin it because you don't want to re-stick it back down. So we want to make sure that it turns on. So I'm going to switch it around over here. Okay, good. It turns on. You can see that these are clear too, so the light's kind of shining through it. We're good to go. All right, so let's unplug it. I'm going to pop it back around here. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our Canal Channel. Put it on that side. We're going to bring in our silicone. Okay, and then we have the scissors just in case if we need to trim down the solder point. As you can see here, since these were pre-cut, we want to make sure that they were cut actually in the middle. This one, you can see that the originally, right, when you see the cut point before it's cut, there is like almost 4 different little metal balls. Okay, now you can see that this was cut definitely down the middle since there's only 2 on the one side. Okay, so we're good to go. We don't need to trim it, but that's why you had the scissors just in case. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to unsnap the lens. Now, older school types of channels, the lenses actually would slide on. Okay, the problem with that is that they had to be a little bit less in size in the channel, so they would kind of shift around a little bit. So now most of our channels are snap-on. So I'm like this, unsnap it, okay? And I'm going to keep my lens out to the side over here. So what I always teach people is this is what is an optimized channel and tape light, meaning that when I did this in our quoting software, I made sure that it was as tight as possible, that it still fits the terminal block in the channel, because that's what's unique about our terminal blocks too, is that they can actually fit in the channel, but that when the terminal block, and I'm going to get this ready and I'll show you in just a second, when it's at the very end, you'll notice that the tape light is almost perfectly, so I'll show the tape light side first. See how it's very much at the very end there, okay? And then also the terminal block, I'll hold it down here, you can see is almost at the very edge as well. Okay, this is what's called optimizing a channel, so that this way the tape light is at as close to the edges as possible, so that you get light all the way to the edges. So this way when you put the lens on, you're not going to get dead spots at the very ends, okay? So what I like to teach people is that you visualize it first before actually installing it. So you see it, you see where you need to be on there, okay? Then you can take the channel out. What we're going to do now is since we have the adhesive ready to go, we're going to get it kind of ready here. I'm going to sit there and then we're going to get this ready. And I want to teach you something here. How you start tape light is how you end it. So if you get this straight in the very beginning and take your time on it, then the rest of the run will be straight. If you get it slightly crooked, if this is on 8-inch channel, that's not a big deal. On an 8-foot channel, you'll start to run up the edges and have to kind of crease the tape light, which can damage it even halfway through the channel. So I'm going to sit here, make sure that my terminal block is as close to the edge as possible, but not hanging off. Okay, I'm going to hold it down, and then I'm going to sit here and get a good view and make sure that the beginning part is straight. And then this way now I can sit here and go down and pull the adhesive off as I go and I stick it down. Okay, so keep going. I'll show you. I'm going to move it over here so you can see me going all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And then what you can do though, and just just note this, that usually you would not be using bare hands, okay? You would be using latex gloves. The reason why is that the oil on your skin, if you touch the phosphor, that is the yellow part over the diode, with your bare fingers, over time, when you light up the tape light, it will burn up the oil and actually deteriorate the phosphor, which isn't good. So usually contractors will be using latex gloves, but also you can do a cool little tip and trick. This is called a seam roller, and it is designed around tape light. If you notice here, there are this groove on the inside, this indentation, so that this way when you go and you roll it down, this actually does not damage the LED diodes. It has a little indentation so that you're not actually crushing the LED diodes. Now I want to explain why this is an important tool. Imagine on an 8-inch section, it's not a big deal going and sticking down the tape light as you go all the way down the channel. On an 8-foot section, or when you're connecting 2 8-foot sections together, that is a lot of labor time. You're sitting there going all the way down. With this, essentially, you get it started, have it straight, and then you can sit there and roll down the tape light, okay, and have it all adhesive very evenly, okay? So I just wanted to mention this. This is a seam roller. We do have links to this that you can get this. We use this over at the Reno Operations Center when we build out fixtures, something very, very similar to this. Okay, so now that we have the tape light adheres to the actual bottom of the channel, okay, just note, for this, we did not spray it down, but anytime you take tape light and you stick it to any surface, either it's a channel or even to wood or an under cabinet system, what we do internally is that we have a spray bottle that has 70% alcohol cleaner and 30% water mix, and that you go and you spray down the surface area, then wipe it down. And that's a big thing that you want to do, because that surface area is going to have dust and particles and different oils on there. And that is not what you want. When you stick the adhesive down on that, and then over time, it will come undone and start to droop. The other big trick is once you've wiped it down, you want to make sure, though, that you let it dry for around 3 minutes. You don't want there to be moisture up there before. So usually we would sit here, spray down the bottom of the channel, wipe it down, let it dry for 3 minutes, then adhese it. But for the sake, I don't want to have to ship you out a spray bottle. We're just going to roll with it for this module, okay? So now that you have it laid in there, we're going to take our end caps. It's a little mounting accessories here. Yours might look like a smaller bag, so we'll take these out. So with our, usually in our bags that come with it, it'll have 4 different clips. The reason why is, let's say you have a 4-foot section, right? An 8-foot section, and you want to cut it in half to 2 different 4-foots. You would then use 2 clips on each section, and usually you would have 2 sets of end caps, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to use these one. There's going to be the wire side one, and then the non-wire side one. And this way you'd have 2 sets, so this, if you cut the channel, you would have another set for the other section, okay? So we're going to have these end caps and get these ready here. And the way we want to do this is we want to put the end caps on first, okay, so that this way it is used as a stopper for the actual lens. The reason why is, imagine if you don't have the end caps on, and these are not slide-on lenses, right? So if I sit there and I think that I'm on straight, and I go, and imagine, remember, 8-foot channel, this could be a pain in the butt, right? You can go down, snap it all the way down, and then you go, uh-oh, you can see here, right? The lens is off the channel over here, and you can see over here that the lens is too short and not connected. You can't push it back here. So now you're like, uh-oh, I have to sit there and completely take the lens back off. So we always want to put the end caps on first. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to silicone them on so that they're not loose and they won't come undone, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our silicone out of the box, okay? There's going to be 2 parts to it. The silicone with a cap on it, and then the actual little nozzle here, okay? So on the back side of the actual cap, there is a little piercer that you can see to puncture the silicone. You can see it there, so I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to like this, and boom, puncture the silicone, get rid of this. You can see now there's a hole in there, and then I'm going to take my nozzle. We have to cut it down because it's obviously capped off here. So we'll take our scissors, and we want to do it not too short, but also not too big. So I like to do it right about here, probably around 1/3 of the way up, okay? So that you'll have a good little hole like that. And then we'll screw this on, and we'll be ready to go. So with our terminal blocks, okay, they usually come with a 2-sided little square adhesive. Okay, and that is so that you can take one side of the adhesive off, you put it onto the back side of the terminal block, and then you take the other side of the adhesive off and you stick it down. In my opinion, this is not as good of an installation best practice. It's also extremely difficult to get the other side of the adhesive off because it's very, very skinny. So most contractors, what they opt in to do is, I'll show you here, we're going to take a little bit of this silicone, and I'm going to show it this way. We're going to put a little bit of it underneath here, like this, Okay, so that it will connect to the terminal block. And then what we want to do is we don't want to silicone the actual end caps. We want to put a dab of silicone on the edges right there and on the edge right here. Okay, and then we'll flip it around here and we'll get it ready for the other side as well. So you can see here just a little dab on the edge, a little dab on the edge, right where the bottom of it meets the side railings. Okay, so now it's ready to go. We'll get rid of our silicone. We're going to use our end cap. That is the wire side first. It should be an upside down U. Okay, an upside down U. Another way to know with this end cap specifically, so you can see it looks like a table on the back side. That's the top of the table. We want to make sure the table is not upside down. It should look like a table. So I'll go like this, bring this back in. I'm going to push this down. Okay, so that now it's now the silicone is keeping the terminal block down. You're going to go like this, put the U, remember, facing down, bring it in, and then it's just going to snap onto the railing. So I'll show you here, boom, right? And then you would usually let it dry for a good 10 to 15 minutes to really let that silicone dry. For the sake of time, we will just keep it popped on there. We're going to take the other one. We're going to show, remember, the table is going to be facing up. Sit here, pop it on. So now we have our stoppers, okay, our end caps that are used as stoppers. You can even look from the side view, see how it's a little bit raised, okay? So now we'll take our lens, and what's cool about this is you can come in, and I'll show this in the other view too, and you can figure out now, see, I know that that's where it's being stopped, so I can, boom, snap it on, and then what you could do in the field is you would have what's a seam roller, but for channel and lens. So notice the difference. We talked about this one. This is so you don't damage the tape light. You do it for the tape light. This is for the lens. Imagine if you had, again, an 8-foot section or 16-foot section. That would be a lot of labor time having to pop it all the way down. So essentially with this, you can go like this and then go all the way down. But for you, since you don't have that roller on hand, you'll use your fingers, okay, and you'll pop it down. Make sure it snaps all the way down, okay? And then you'll let it sit there, let the end caps dry, okay? And then we're going to come back around here and make sure that it actually lights up, okay? And boom, look at that. You have done a fully loaded channel. Congratulations. You are on your way to becoming an expert in LED linear tape light.